Okay, sir.
Now I'm giving you a life situation that the architect, now she is in a family way and she has to go to hospital for maternity issues. Now, how does she move out of this house?
Okay.
Think about it. It is just a door, right? And
Hmm.
okay, even if you have crossed that, let's say she went to the hospital, admitted in ambulance, everything.
So like a slope should be there like near the door, like which will be like an easier way of exit.
Yeah, that is fine, but I think we also need a little bit of space, right? So it's about space clearance. I'm not really asking about a slope right now, but yeah, you're right. But what I'm saying is, at least when you plan, think about spaces. Now, I'm just giving you a scenario here that she is blessed with a baby girl, right? And she comes from the hospital back home, right? What a nice ceremony happens now. I'm sure in South also it happens that the new child is going to be called into the home. Now, how do they drop off from the car? And then the baby is trying to grow up, and then there is a baby pram edition, right? Then imagine how this door will open. See, you know what, Sukriti,
Yes,
the
sir.
the house is the most challenging project that an architect can ever do. Even more challenging than a hospital. You know why? Because in hospital and in all other projects, everybody lives for a very short period of time. Whether you design a cafe, whether you design a restaurant, you design a shopping mall, cinema, everything. Everyone goes there for a short period of time. But house is the only destination where you live for most period of your life, right? And second thing, as in if you were there in the morning, like Mr. Jaisim said, no 2 days are the same,
Yes, sir. I
right?
heard, sir. Yes, sir.
Every day you are changing. I'm sure you were also a little child when you grew up in one small house, and your preferences changed with time, isn't it? As you were growing, when you were little, you had different toys to play with. As you grew up, the toys were replaced by books, and now the books are getting replaced by gadgets, and the gadgets would further get replaced by more high-tech gadgets, and you will have your own set of things or possessions, right? So your spatial demands, your spatial behavior, your spatial connect will become evolve. I would use not use the word change, but it evolves. So the house has to be a most dynamic place which has the most adaptive people living in them, right? Now we were looking at just at one element because I was telling you that significance of each element is vital. Just like you were there in the morning when I was telling the story of the nail and the purlin and the column.
Yes, sir. I was
You were
there,
there?
sir.
Yeah, yeah. So now just start looking at your beautiful house that you've designed with each element's role in such a way that it will function pretty well even in life changing situations. Now imagine the child was born. So now the grandparents will come one fine day, they will have the first birthday celebration, right?
Yes, sir.
So now the grandparents are coming. So how will the grandparents come? They might be coming with a stick in their hand. They might have little less eyesight, and they will also walk into through the same spaces, isn't it? You will go them to receive them from the airport, for example, and then you come back from the Bengaluru airport to this house, and then how do they drop off with the luggage? How they enter in? Think of all these things because when you hold the door, just imagine where is the space for somebody, and how could you have solved this problem? What if we had a door which was opening inside,
Yes, sir.
right? Think about it. Second thing, think whether the door would have been better to be on the left hand side or on the right hand side. Imagine,
Yes,
imagine
sir.
if somebody was here. I think I cannot show the cursor, but you can move the cursor on the door, the 90-degree angle, yeah. And imagine if the person had to enter the door, he had to first go behind the door, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So then how will he or she move with the luggage or the baby pram from this side to this side? Think about it, right? I'm not asking you to do much, but think about it. And also think that there is a kitchen here. I can see right next to the door, right?
Yes, sir.
And there is a beautiful window so that somebody can see, oh, Appa has come, so let's prepare idli here itself, right?
Yes.
See, the house is talking so nicely, right? So there is a voice coming from this window saying, oh, Appa has come, now idli is ready. He's also smelling it outside. But how will the window open? The window has to open. I saw in the elevation you've made very cute round windows, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. We'll come to that later, but tell me, how will this open? And if the door is open?
So like this window is like the sliding door, so like you can pull it like upwards.
So now the sliding window will mean the opening is just half of this.
Yes, sir.
While Bangalore has such a wonderful weather, I envy that. And why should we not have full open window, right? Think about it. And then, you know, you have created a slab like this. Of course, it's your early childhood drawing, I would say, presentation drawing. But imagine here, so I think your kitchen is a lovely space, but there is, of course, you have chosen to have an open kitchen, right? Can I ask you why?
So like I thought of like open plan kitchen where like it'll be like more like beautiful and like it is more like adapted nowadays. So I thought of keeping it so.
Okay. That's okay. That's a choice that you have. But the point is, so whatever you will cook, also the sound and the noise of the kitchen is going to be part of your house. Now imagine you are doing a work from home, right? I don't know if you're sitting on a dining table right now, or are you sitting inside a room?
In the hall, sir.
In the hall, right? So does your house have an open kitchen right now?
No, sir.
Not yet, right? So you'll have to see these kind of, again, this is basically situational abilities. These questions would not have been asked maybe 5 years before, but now when you work from home, the question would be, should the kitchen be concealed or should the kitchen be open? Especially if you want to use the living area, because your cookers will still blow some whistles and your other kind of utensils will also make some sounds, and food is an ongoing thing, you know, on the kitchen slab. Anyways, let's go forward and let us imagine, so where is the bedroom?
So this is the kids' bedroom and this is the master bedroom.
Okay, the master bedroom. Oh, kid has been separated very early. At what age do you think, so you're already imagining that the kid has grown up, right?
Yes, sir.
So imagine, as I said, the kid is born after they move into this house. So till how many years the kid is going to sleep with the parents?
Maybe 16, 17.
16, 17 years. Great. I'm very happy to hear this. Thank you for saying that, because I know these days some kids want to move out very early, like the West, but I like the idea of 17-year-old should sleep. Very nice. So for 17 years, that room will have to have something else, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So then what will you give it a designation as? Or the architect needs to have a 17 years of practice before he gets this house?
Not like that, sir.
So tell us, think about it. Okay, and once they do, so now I'm imagining, okay, let us say this is the master bedroom, and when the first child happens, this is the room, this is the door to the washroom, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, how much is this door width? Any idea?
1000 mm, sir.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
And what is the outside door width? The main door width?
Which one, sir? This one, sir?
Yeah, this one, yes.
Like all the doors are 1000 mm, sir.
All the doors are 1000? You have no hierarchy of doors?
No, sir.
Okay, very good. I think you've been very generous and I'm happy about it if it is 1000 mm, because then of course Yes, everybody will be able to move. But coming from a practical experience, even in the best of housings, people are giving up to 800, 900 mm doors. And then what happens is when the door frame is fixed to it, the effective width remains only 750 mm. And which is where the trouble starts happening when you are in a life situation, when you need a slightly wider door. Okay, and then can you please take us inside the washroom and tell us what is where? Yeah.
So when you enter the washroom, here is the wash basin,
Okay.
and here is the WC, and then
Okay.
when you enter, this is like the wet area where you shower.
Okay. So I think your dry and wet spaces are very well planned, very nice. But now imagine when you are in the shower area and electricity goes off, right? So what do you think would be the kind of illumination that this will receive? And anyways, there is going to be night after evening hours, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
And if it is dark,
So like nowadays, like people use like UPS, no, sir.
oh, inverter, huh?
Oh, yes, sir.
But there can be a storm and your inverter battery can die after 3 days. And inverter can also go bad, right? What I'm saying is, imagine all those things. I know your kids are living in a very nice time when you have these facilities, but still, these are machines. They can go bad sometimes. The only point we are trying to say is, if you choose to have natural daylight in an interesting way, it can give you a good contrast of surfaces, which will be very good for even if your vision decreases. Right. And of
Yes,
course,
sir.
which does not mean only by light, it also means by the color that you will choose in terms of fixtures that you have. But now tell me, suppose the lady needed to, suppose, use the restroom. Now, how would she support herself to sit on the seat? Right. So is there a
Oh, yes,
provision of
sir.
space where she can hold on to something? So keep those things in mind. I'm just trying to introduce them
Yes,
to you
sir.
and think about them. And though there are a couple of other things, you've chosen a very, I would say, non-linear form, which is a very great idea, but you have to visualize it whether it will work fine or not. So especially if you see on the bed, the corner that you get and the person who will sleep on the left hand side of the bed, and when he or she gets down, he or she is likely to hit the corner of the bed every time, right? So
Oh,
look
yes,
at
sir.
these spaces with care. I know this is your first or early design stage, but I'm using this as an experience because what you sketch on paper will get translated exactly the same in the reality. And this is like then a 2 crore project. If you take the land and things into account, this piece of paper that on which you've done a nice presentation drawing is worth like a 2 crore project, uh, which would mean 200 lakh rupees, and it must give you the value. Now somebody says, okay, on Amazon, this is the house. Will you buy it?
Uh, oh, it depends, sir.
It depends means what? Suppose you have the money,
Hmm.
let's say for a minute, money is not the criteria, and houses were on sale like this on
Hmm.
Amazon, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and you will say, okay, this one is for 2 crore, another one is for 1.5 crores, this is that and this. So suppose you like this house in the form that, okay, 2 crores in the nice locality. Will you
Hmm.
say this design is fine for me to move in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, why?
So before you buy it, like you can ask like, and like if you have like a friend who is in like an architect beside you, like
Mhm.
all you can ask like their opinions on it, and then
But what will their opinion be? You are yourself an architect. So whose opinion you will consider? My first question is that.
okay, like if I'm an architect and I'm buying a house,
Yeah.
uh,
So whose opinion?
uh, I would buy it, I guess.
Would you not ask your family members who are going to live in it?
Yes, sir.
So how will you convince them that let's buy this? Suppose somebody says, no, I don't like this bathroom, I don't like this kitchen. What will you do?
So like if you're like seeing online and then buying, then I would like go for another. Why? Because the people who are living in it is like more matters. Like even their opinions matter. Like even their desires matter.
So what I'm only trying to say is, of course, it is only taking reference from your design, but it is not really only to you. Is that as designers, we have to engage in the process of understanding the users, right? It would be nice, I'm sure, if you try as an architect to ask the client these questions or the user these questions, that who are the other users, and then you behave like a doctor, you know, that I understand the needs of these users. Right, I understand what elderly grandparents would mean in this house. I understand. Would you not like to know the heights of the lady of the house, the heights of the gents of the house, the heights of the children of the house, and what would be the washroom type when you're designing it for them? So let's go to the kids' washroom. Where is the basin there?
Oh, here, sir.
And where is the bathing area?
Oh, bathing area is here.
So every time they have to use the WC, their feet will get wet, isn't it?
Oh, yes, sir.
So then they will bring the wet feet in the bedroom and then they can slip. And when they will slip, then they will again shift themselves into master bedroom with parents. Right? Because somebody has to give them care, isn't it?
Oh, yes, sir.
And when they do caregiving, then who will take them to the washroom? And then they are in this room, you know, so will it be possible for two people to enter from the door? Think about it. Of course, I'm not even trying to, you know, push any thoughts here, but I'm only asking you to think about it. And these are few situations, but other than that, there are situations like now you come to your elevation.
Oh, yes, sir.
Because I see the kids' bedroom is beautiful, and the guest bedroom you have been even giving extra elements like the hanging stuff. But now in your elevation, I think it was the next one. Yeah. So these round circles, I love them beautifully. You know, they look nice to the composition. But tell me one thing, how will I use the sill space? You understand the sill?
Oh, yes, sir.
The window sill, right?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because in kitchen also you've kept it round. Many a time, if you see our efficient house ladies, what they do is they keep things easy accessibility, right? Near them, near the gas stove or near the slab, right? So then they would like to sometimes keep those things around the sill. But if it is round, they'll not be able to use it. So a sill of a window is not just a sill to support the structure of the window frame, but can give you what is called as an adaptive function of using it in something beyond its regular function. And this is what is called as making it inclusive for the function of kitchen, right? Likewise, in the kids' room, when you do this, and by this I don't mean to object to your creativity. Please be as creative as you can, but try and think from these angles that would you like the children to sit into the sill, you know? Can we create a sill space by a bay window, for example, so that people can sit there on a couch and in between get cozy and enjoy the experience of outside from the window. A window is not just a window, it's a frame to the outside world, isn't it? So if you do it interestingly, some people would want to put potted plants around it, isn't it? Now, how would you put them here? So think about it, because it is your generation who has to see these things in times to come. And I see a door with 3 steps here, right? Can I see this in plan? Can I see this door in plan? Because you said it is at the same floor level. I see 3 steps.
So like here, sir, in like this entrance.
So now tell me, how do I ring the doorbell?
So like you should
where do I
climb the
stand to
stairs
ring
and
the
then
doorbell? Huh?
you should like climb the stairs and then ring the bell.
So I have to stand on the tread.
Oh,
You
yes, sir.
understand?
Oh,
Tread
yes,
and
sir.
take
Yes,
the.
yes,
Do you
sir.
think it is sufficient to stand on the tread?
Oh, no, sir.
So then what should we do?
Oh, like the landing should have like more width.
Precisely. And when you do a landing, your baby pram can also stand on it. So that when a mother comes with a child, she has to otherwise leave the baby pram below, take 3 steps and press the bell.
Oh, yes, sir.
Right. So it is like this, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
So anything that you would like to highlight?
Nothing, sir.
Nothing. Okay, you. Anything you want to disagree to me on a couple of these thoughts?
Oh, no, sir. Like I agree, sir.
No, you should not agree, na. Say
See,
something.
like one thing which I like
Yeah.
was not like this thing was the living room, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't go to the living room. Yeah. Okay.
Like it has 2 entrances, one from here and one from the
Mm-hmm.
here.
Right. So you want to ask anything about the living room?
So like how can we like design like more efficiency of the living room, sir?
Okay, I think you are really a 21st century kid who is asking a question of efficiency. First of all, I will revert the question to you. What do you mean by efficiency?
So like a living room should be like more like spacious, and then like it should be
But
like comfortable.
fine, but what do you mean by efficiency of a living room versus efficiency of a bedroom versus efficiency of a kitchen? Like, so for example, these are 3 distinct kind of spaces. A efficient kitchen means what? In minimum time and minimum effort, I should be able to
Do more
produce a
work.
good food to you, isn't it? That's what efficiency means.
Yes, sir.
So in a bedroom, what is efficiency? That with minimum steps, I should be able to use the cupboard. With minimum distance, I should be able to use into the washroom
Yes.
and manage myself. Basically, managing yourself with minimum effort, right?
Yes, sir.
Actually, this would be a wonderful thing if you, I will connect this in the later part of the talk to a principle of universal design, which is called as low physical effort. So if you understand efficiency, where is it coming from? Fact is, it is coming from a very basic human logic. You know, humans are considered intelligent, but sometimes that intelligence has been reverting back on us. So we always do to gain maximum by putting minimum, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
This is why we fight with the street vendor and tell him that no, if it is 10 rupees, no, give us in 8 rupees, right? Because
Yes,
we
sir.
always want more in less, right? Likewise, we want more from the machines. That is why in the mobile you are able to now talk, you're able to do calculator, you're able to use light, you're able to do everything. And that also in like 8-9,000 rupees mobile also you're able to do everything that a computer does, of course at some lesser speed. Now, when it comes to a living room, how do you look at the efficiency? First of all, I think this is a super efficient living room because there are no 2 sides for the guests, only 1 sofa,
Yes, sir.
right? So you don't want anyone else. It's only home people.
No, sir.
So first thing you have to see is in the living room, who do you want to sit or seat? You want people? How many people to sit? How many people?
So like the guests who come around and then for us to see the television.
And even if it is not the guest, within home people also can sit, na? Parents and grandparents, isn't it? So where do they sit and have a cup of tea and coffee?
Sit on the sofa.
But the sofa is only one and there is no table.
Oh, yes, sir.
And imagine if the grandmother was, by some reason, she came here and she fell down and now she's in a wheelchair. Now she also wants to join a happy conversation in the living room. There is a birthday or something, about the planning. And so what do we write about that?
Oh, so like there should be a empty space where
Yeah.
beside the
So
sofa where
yeah.
she can join.
So what I'm trying to say, in the pre-session, I had asked you to do exactly the same exercise to map the elements of a space, right? And
Yes, sir.
so, for example, if you say consider a living room, the elements of this space would be, of course, the boundary of the space, which will have the doors and the windows. The elements like the table and the sofa, you have to be very sure how many they can be and how flexible they can be, right? These days,
Yes,
when the houses are small, people try to compact them and they put a what is called a sofa cum bed. So that if you don't have a guest bedroom, that guest could be also made to sleep there. The question is your design providing that flexibility? Number two, first of all, I think it needs to have the table and then it needs to have the circulation space around it. And I think the moment you'll start putting these elements, the same living room will start looking very condensed, or I should say dense, right? So that is where your design will have to start thinking, and your sofa seems to be linear while the wall seems to be non-linear. So there will be a gap in between, which will be difficult to manage and clean, right? So you have
sir.
to think about it. How will you hang the nice paintings that you might have done or somebody else gifts you on these walls, because then there will be a curve behind it.
Oh, yes, sir.
Right. And what about the TV? Of course, these days now you have the curved televisions, but the fact remains is that the light comes from the same side. So during the day when you have to watch TV, you will have to seal it with curtains. Isn't that
Oh,
true?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right? And to serve in the living room from the kitchen, the connection is very good, but you just have to ensure that people are able to enter into it safely and serve it. So just imagine what will be the flow of tea or flow of any service, any food service into this living room. From which side somebody will come and from which side people will serve. So it will actually come from the side and the back as of now, the way I see it right now.
Oh, yes, sir.
Right? It's coming from the back, right?
Yes, sir.
And so you have to really see whether that's the best way to serve.
Oh,
Right?
yes, sir.
Now just look at a small solution here within this. What if you turn the TV on the opposite side? Though of course it's blocked by the door, but if you do that and take the sofa on the other side, everything walks into the flow and your window also doesn't disturb.
Oh, yes, sir.
Right? So
Oh, yes,
think
sir.
about it. I would say it's not a very complex thing, but what is important is it requires this degree of thought to go in. What I'm only trying to tell you is every little element has to be thought about, and then you can be the Frank Lloyd Wright of your own designs, and you should surely try to master them. But think about every little person. Imagine the maid who's going to clean the house, right?
Oh, yes,
This we are
sir.
assuming that we have enough money, but sometimes people have to clean it themselves. So look about all those things. How will she clean it? If somebody, so she'll also have to mop the floor with some water. Now what happens in the kitchen? Some water will spill over, isn't it?
Oh, yes, sir.
So that water will also go till the entrance because the kitchen is open,
Yes, sir.
which means somebody coming at say 11 a.m. time when the kitchen is under cleaning has a chance to slip when he or she enters the door. And the second is on the other side of the door where you have the steps, there's a great chance to get stuck with the staircase handrail, which is good to extend, but the point where it is extending is a point which is endangering them, so it is not safe, I would say.
Oh,
Right?
yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir.
So think about it. I mean, I appreciate your creativity as design, But the whole idea is, it doesn't matter whether you're in second year or 20 years later you do this house, right? Because people who've grown even higher are committing even more serious mistakes even today. The point is, what we are trying to learn is just walk inside this house, imagining yourself of different ages and imagining yourself with different capabilities of life, and then see whether this design works. So which means we need to spend some time into these designs and then take all of them through that simulation and then go forward and say, okay, now this is my design which would work for all of them. And that is what would mean a inclusive design, right? So that is the idea I would like to take forward. Thank you so much, Sukruti. I hope it is clear to others as well, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you.
Thank you, Sukruti, for sharing your work. I'm sure these inputs will help you further to make your design better, as in how you'll go further in higher semesters. You will learn all these things more and take all these inputs in your design. So with that, I kindly request Dr. Gaurav Raheja to take over session for further presentation.
Is there anyone who could manage to do something on task 1 or task 2?
We would like to request participants, if you guys have done any of the exercises or the questions which sir had left us with in the first session, if you have done any of the assignments or exercises, you can share your experience with us.
Even half done is good enough, but at least then I get to know that people are alive.
I would like to answer my task 1. Can I share the screen?
Yes, Paramita.
Yes.
Yes, sir. The first image, the entrance. First is explaining facilitated with this because it's so people coming from out can access to the facilities in the house, and then it acts as a barrier for people who are intruders and trespassers, and then inclusion of ownership in the sense it divides the space from public space to the private space. And then the second image showing the slope explains inclusion in the sense
Can you go to that slide? I am not able to see the slide. Only first slide I saw.
So in the same slide, the second image, the slope,
slope
leading to the entrance.
Yeah, this one I have seen. Yeah, the next one. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, independence of the swing seat.
That's all, sir.
Fine. I think it's a good attempt. Thank you for sharing this.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Hi, sir.
Hello.
So this is Asmita. So I had taken 3 photographs. So actually I live with my grandparents. So in our house we do some kind of modifications so that it is easier for them. So I had taken 3 photographs. Can I share them?
Yeah, please go ahead. Wow, beautiful. Thank you so much for this picture. It speaks so much, but I would like you to speak about it.
Yes, sir. So working in kitchen involves like hours of standing and stuff. So what we do is like my grandmom, she sits on a chair and she cuts the vegetables on the stool. So um, since it is already a rented house, we do these kinds of modification in terms of like furniture, so that it is easier for them.
Okay. Next picture.
Sorry. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So this is my grandfather. So basically we have sofas in the house, but since he has knee pain and stuff, we don't use that much. So this is what we generally do.
Beautiful.
And this is in the bathrooms. So it's kind of slippery. So we use these stools and so that it is easier for them. That's
Beautiful.
it.
Wonderful. I think I would like to revisit all the 3 pictures and talk a little in addition to what you've said. Thank you so much. Forgot your name, beta.
Asmita.
Asmita, thank you so much. You're not sharing these pictures. You're sharing a life and a life knowledge with us. So first of all, when you see this, the grandmother, our regards to both your grandparents. See, did we ever think that we would design a kitchen with a chair? Actually, we never. Now, what if this slab height was, say, 100 millimeters down? You think it would have been comfortable for her? Because she would sit and do this. And this is a wonderful stool, which has 2 kind of holes, one to lift, and second sometimes to keep your feet as well.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
So I definitely want you to look at design from these eyes where you see flexibilities within. Now you see within the kitchen, I can see the switchboards towards the end, right? So this would define and change, if you break the word accessibility, just see so many things in a kitchen. So one is how do you access utensils? So in a kitchen, you have 3 activities. So she's right now engaged in an activity called preparation, right?
Yes.
And then there would be, so it's a pre-preparation stage, and then she would be preparing the meal on this thing, and then it is ready and stored and finished. And then of course there is a washing area that you also have. So if you see this composition of the kitchen, and do you know, I'm just bringing this to you, do you know where this kitchen design evolved from? Traditional kitchens were not like this. Did you ask your grandmother that how was it when she was young?
Yes, sir. So basically, in the ancient houses, there were no like 700 mm height slabs. It was usually on the ground.
So I'm just giving you a link here. This idea came from what at least I know of is what is called as a Frankfurter kitchen, which was designed by the 3 German lady architects as an idea for an efficient kitchen. Referring back to my previous conversation with Sukriti, that efficient kitchen meant in that German context, because please imagine it is again coming from an environmental context. The environmental context was that the world was at war for them, and they wanted a kitchen therefore because women had to take the roles which otherwise were men used to take. So now women also had to go for jobs, while at the same time they also had to cook, and they wanted to do this so that it can be done in an efficient way. So they came up with this concept of a kitchen design in which this idea of kitchen triangle came, which I guess you and I today study it in our schools of architecture as well. But that kitchen triangle comes from that context, and it has come into our context such that we are now adapting to a kitchen triangle, while we did not work with the concept of kitchen triangle in our earlier situations. And here what I'm trying to say is design for cultural inclusion becomes important. Even if your grandmother can stand and certain other things, there are practices in which she would like to move. Now, for example, in southern part of India, as I'm aware, you try to be bare feet, and that's why I can see a white marble floor and she is without any slipper. Now, without being on any slipper means the risk of falling is even higher sometimes, because there can be slipperiness on the floor, right? So the question comes is your design safe? Right? So we have to design for safety, we have to design for reach. Are the utensils that are there, not only that she cannot stand, she'll have hard time to bend also. So there are certain spaces within which the reach will become difficult, right? And these are the questions that at least the architects have to be sensitive about and think about. Let's go to the next space. So basically what we are seeing is the grandmother is doing the job independently by some elements of product design. The product, like a chair and a adjustable stool, have kind of come to her rescue so that she can part-time stand and part-time sit. But she is preferring to be independent. She's not asking someone else to do. She is managing pretty well by herself. Amazing thing. So you see how with age also people prefer independence, but the interdependence has been supported by design in such a way that she does not feel that she's depending on anything. If the stool and chair was not there, I'm sure she would feel shy to tell maybe her own children that, dear children, I am not able to do, and because then she would get a feeling of burdened, right? That I am a burden on your family. And this is something where design for emotion and social inclusion becomes very important. Please understand, see, this is the generation because of which we are here. And I know while we have the best of technical gadgets, you know, there is a big term these days which is being called, we are facing a emotional dependence, you know, loss, right? While you have Facebook, you have WhatsApp, you have everything, but yet there are more cases of mental anxiety, yet there are more cases of stresses, yet there are more cases of emotional disturbances amongst our current societies. So you'll have to understand we owe a lot of that emotional dependence to these people. So we must take care of them in our own homes through design at least, right? Okay, let's go ahead. This is also a picture, I would say, your grandfather, amazing. I would say so many examples of design I can see within it. First of all, this chair has made him independent to relax. Number two, he could manage it by himself independently. Number three, though this chair is not a Charles Eames chair or a Corbusier chair, it is lightweight and it works for him because he can manage it by himself. He can also put these two chairs and lift them and take them anywhere. So while he has two chairs, nobody designed a chair thinking that it would become actually a stretching bed, right? This posture is normally a posture of bed, but it is possible on a chair with the help of the same design, which the designer might have himself not thought about it, right? But these are the learnings that you have. In the third, you know, you don't have a table next to the sofas. Though I think the sofa design, you can see, you know, is occupying a lot of more space. But if there was a table in between, the space clearances would have also required. So maybe you have shifted the table on wheels or something. But these sofas, I don't know what is the frequency of their usage. You'll find he's preferring a kind of, you know, a chair to relax than a sofa, whereas sofa is a more expensive product. So the point I'm trying to make is it is not always this thing that more cost will buy us better design, right? Please see the per square feet area that one sofa occupies, and of which how much is it that you really use, and of that how much space does it take. So as an architect, be sensitive to space, its usability, and I think I'm giving you this term which is part of the efficiency thing. It's called usability, whereas you see in this chair, again, it is low physical effort, which is one of the principles of universal design I'm going to talk about. So just see, amazing picture, you know, it tells him that how he has independently been able to put himself into a posture, which also tells us that users have an intuitive intellect. Let us not consider us as architects who know everything. Let us see what can we learn from the users so that we can design something which can be very, very minimal for them, yet it can make their job. Now, I'm pretty sure he would be very happy with these chairs rather than anything else. If you even make a bed for him, the bed will have a difficulty is that you cannot move him out and in. With these chairs, he can move out closer to the window, closer to the balcony, and still be independent and make a wonderful posture out of it. I think during these COVID days, Asmita, your name, right?
Yes, sir.
Please spend as much time with your grandparents and observe and learn design from them. Let them be your mentors for these few months. We would be very grateful. And then come to the college, rather come to the college to share, not just, receive these lessons. I can see so much here about independence, inclusion, and see, as a result, suppose if he was dependent on you, situation would be very different. It would be very different. He would be confined to one space. Now he has the flexibility to move to another space. So your space and your furniture is providing both an inclusive power as well as the power of independence to that individual. As a consequence, he maintains his dignity of who he is. And that is the subtle way design works, right? I'm so glad that such a picture has come in front of us. Can we go to the third picture?
Yes.
Yes. I'm so happy that you even attempted an annotation like this. Now just see this again, of course. So these are Indian ways of, adapting. So this is a situation. The stool is not the part of the design. The stool is part of the adaptation, right? So because in an Indian system, now here bathing is a cultural matter. Wherever we have traveled across outside India and Europe and all, you do not find a bucket. You only have a shower to take bath with. Now, how do you manage that? So that is where the cultural adaptation comes into existence. Your tap heights are wonderfully low. I would say they are very nice. But now the three interfaces that he or she has to use. One, the bucket height, because you have to reach till the end of the bucket with the mug or whatever, right? And you have to touch the tap heights. And number three is you have to sit and pour water. And now how does that person access soap? Where is the soap? Or just mark with an arrow, where would one keep the soap? So now just imagine, this is a complex network in the environment of reaches, right? There is a space that you need on the floor to maneuver. There is a arm's reach that you need. So there are two kinds of reaches, forward reach and lower forward reach. And the soap dish is on the side reach. So you have to imagine when you design this and when you create a small drawing, how do you decide upon these reaches? These reaches should be such that when you are actually rinsing the soap, your eyes might also be closed, but your hand should automatically be able to put the soap back there, right? And second thing is, now when you've taken bath here, the question is, how do you get up? Because the floor is wet and such that you don't slip.
Yes.
I am very sure you ask, please, if possible, tomorrow, day after, later, whenever, slowly engage a conversation with your grandparents, learn from them about the experience of these spaces, because that's where the knowledge is hidden. It's okay, whatever design you have right now, but it's not okay if we don't work upon how interventions could be. So ask them, do they feel safe while taking bath? They may not say anything, because they would always say, why should we spend more money on anything? And I'm also not saying that you have to spend more money, but I'm only asking, when we are trying to learn from them, learn and don't talk to them at the same time. Talk to them differently so that you can understand both male and female and cultural and anthropometry and independence and interdependence differently for both of them, because the same space is used by multiple people, right? And you will find, I can see the WC, but I can also see there is a WC tap which is little ahead, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
So now how does one reach there? Isn't that difficult?
Yes.
And this is something one has to deal with in a daily life. You know what, Asmita, I must thank you. I cannot thank you enough by my words, because there is so much
Thank you,
knowledge
sir.
when you see these images that so much goes into our daily lives with the architecture that surrounds us, but we are so amazing people that we don't talk about it because we tolerate architecture. And because we keep tolerating, we feel that the architects have not done their job well, right? I mean, of course, it's not about only architects. I mean, whoever is responsible to create this, even by ignorance or whatever, we have to indulge into these things so that we can give better quality of life. Now, what does better quality of life mean here? It means that my job of using the washroom becomes more independent, it becomes more safe, it becomes more usable, and I am able to manage everything without any difficulty, even if tomorrow there is a severity of my usage. Now, of course, when you see the WC is raised above, right? So I'm very sure you have the door closer to the wet area, which means again the chances of slipping in the room next to this washroom would be higher. Number one. Number two, in case of a troubled situation, God forbid anybody has that, but even if you have a temporary ailment like even fever, then to climb that 3 inches will be difficult. And number three, in times when it is dark, especially at night and the light goes off, the color distinction in the floor is going to be weak. As a consequence, there is an endangerment there. So if I would propose that the edge might have a contrast color so that one is aware about the threshold lines of safety there. Right, so there is so much that one can learn about it. If I were there, I would make a drawing of it, understand, and do an experiment of taking your grandparents into this space, asking them to simulate how they take bath, how do they use this, and then as an architect, we derive a lot of learnings from this, and it would be an amazing design exercise. You would learn so much here than anywhere else. Frankly speaking, then the house is not a space, it's actually a laboratory for you to understand architecture, right? So I
Yes.
think this is where I would end for this picture. Thank you so much, Asmita.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Asmita. Do we have anybody else to share a work? Any more participants who would like to share their work? Yeah, I think we can move on, and so we would like to hear more from you now.
Okay, fine. I'm moving ahead then, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So I hope the kids are not bored, but I am very excited about the pictures that they showed, about the designs there, because I'm very curious about small things around us. Why is architecture for us in Dubai? It's right next to us, isn't it? So okay, let me just. So I think this was the exercise that I had given. It's okay, whoever could manage it so far. But the point we are trying to come back here and there is, we have to use these words not as mere words of language, but these are the foundations around which any profession is built around. Please understand the profession, and I think this would be a truth as long as human life sustains on this planet in its current manifestation, that if your design increases dependence, increases exclusion, or increases barriers, we are not only out of business, but I think we should be really out of the entire idea of being called a professional, right? But the question is, if you have to work on the other side, creating an architecture that makes people feel more dignified by independently doing certain things, by feeling included as part of space and activities, and facilitating what they intend to do. I would say, except for criminal activities, I think it is that what should be the guiding foray of architecture. And the whole idea was of to take pictures was to start getting deeper into these frames. A picture is nothing but a photo frame. And whatever you see in the world, you're as many times your eyes are able to actually wink, it is as many pictures you are taking on an everyday trip. So I'm sure even if you're at home, you are taking a million pictures every day. So please make sure that from those pictures, it's up to us how to study dependence and independence, just as I just could guide you through these 3 images that one of us could show, right? The second task also, I think somewhere connecting to the first design that we saw, was about, therefore I'm not using the word architecture, because I know there is a lot of confusion whether a building is an architecture or an architecture is not a building but a space with a certain condition. So I prefer to use the term environment, and would urge you to also do so, because you are shaping some form of environment. And when you say environment, you cannot run away by saying I just shaped the physicality of it. Please get into it, the creation of a complete environment of which sound is a part, of which sight is a part, of which touch is a part, of which all the senses involved are actually a part. And as a result, the architect has to indulge in much more than what he or she is doing today, including technology. And why I'm saying this is, even when you look at a door as an element, you might find door has some 20 to 30 elements as part of it, which makes the door functional in the way it is. Right from its hinges, to its door handles, to its nameplate, to its door stopper, to its frame, to its architrave, to its own thickness, to its material, to its paint, to its color, to its window slits in it. There are so many elements that every element by itself is composed of. So all I'm trying to say is that the architect has to invest into the detail, as Professor Jaisim said. Then both the detail will allow you to express an abstraction, and the abstraction would be manifested in the detail, but both of them would have a meaning that shapes your daily life. And I'll here talk about the door handle, for example, that you use, right? And annotate the experience. I don't know if anybody could do that, but I know most of us as architects have shied away from actually indulging ourselves into these environments and test. Today we are living in a world when everybody wants a warranty. So everybody wants an experience with a disclaimer, right? And I want you to do that as long as at least you are at home, or even after that, by putting yourself in situations that other humans would be, so that tomorrow you can claim that I am the architect who has the ability to solve the problems, rather than create problems. Because see, the kind of sidewalks, the kind of washrooms, the kind of kitchens we are creating sometimes are not solving the problems, or while they are solving one problem, they're also creating another problem, right? And that's what Victor Papanek said, that a car is nothing but a carbon monoxide producing device. At the cost of polluting the environment, we transport ourselves from point A to point B. So please understand, I would like to give you one design philosophy which is extremely hard to follow, I know, but I will still give it to you. And that design philosophy is called cause no harm, right? Cause no harm policy, right? Does your design cause any harm to anyone? If yes, there is still a scope to improve upon it, right? And we have to think about that. And that is what will make you a visionary futurist and a visionary professional of the times to come. So I would say this task 2 is more than a task. I think it's a methodology of learning from your own environment. And I would be very happy if we could still have some discussion on it tomorrow. So coming to this term, accessibility, we have been talking about what actually it is. It's a term we all know. It's a term we really understand. But if you start understanding it, you'll find it is manifested in many different ways. It's a quality of a space, to allow or to enhance the performance of certain tasks that you're doing, which could mean either to reach or to access or to approach or to even understand, So for example, you say whether the principal of my college is accessible or not. It does not mean he's physically there or not, but it means whether he hears you or not, right? So accessibility can be an emotional experience. It can be a social experience. It can be a policy experience, and it can also be a physical experience. It can also be a technological experience, but therefore it is important for us to understand the many manifestations of this term access, right? So I'll move forward on this. So basically, accessibility of all environments and products should lead to what? It should enable the integration of people with disabilities into society, increasing their independence and improving their quality of life. So again, going back to the morning question, does architecture matter? I would say it only matters if it is able to provide independence or interdependence to some extent while improving the quality of life. If by having a particular piece of built form, the quality of life is going down and the independence is reduced, I would say you can easily say that's not a piece of architecture. That's a barrier. That's an exclusionary form of existence. I would not even call it a piece of design, right? So let's not confuse ourselves on this term design in one way or the other, but rather look at any environment that is able to, and on the contrary, if people have been able to develop a certain form of independence and a quality of life without causing any harm, I think without a hesitation, I would call it sustainability. Even if those people have not graduated from any institution, so-called formal institution. So I think today we have come to a stage where knowledge really has to be seen with both hands and minds, everything open, then we really have to seek it even more. So if you find it here, here is what I'm trying to explain to you one thing, that on one side is the human dimension that is called adaptability, while accessibility is the environmental dimension, while these two together form what? So wherever human adaptability is reduced, the environmental accessibility should provide. Wherever the environment accessibility is limited, the humans should be able to adapt. And if this form of assistance continues for lifetime, you can actually have a very good quality of life. But the moment this gap increases, when human ability reduces, either by age or by situation or by a temporary form of ailment or disability, and the environment refuses to provide you access, it is then the problems begin. And unfortunately, friends, you might know, India has a huge gap to fill in here. It's not that the architects didn't do the job earlier, but it's just that the architects have to do much more than what we have done so far. But to be honest, many claimed architects have also added to this situation where this gap has been increasing. And so first, the only way we can reduce this is by educating ourselves and being sensitive to the idea of each human as a valued life, right? Do you know how many girl children drop out from primary schools in our rural areas because the access to toilet was not there? Do you know how many people with disabilities in India, must be around 10 million plus, who are having no access to anything, be it education, be it employment? And the question is why? The answer is because they could never get out of their own homes to the environment where education was possible. They could never get out from the environments of education, therefore, to the environments of employment, because that's a precondition to that. Do you know what really happens is those people end up becoming dependent on their families. And by virtue of that dependence, the social stigma of disability has become in our many contexts as a very sad phenomenon. Otherwise, disability is another form of human existence, which should not have any kind of a shame, which should not have any kind of a pain, except for the ones that they have to bear. But we have added as a social pain, infrastructural pain, and the biggest pain is that we have excluded them from what is called as social participation. Something that you and I only experienced in the times of Corona. And please understand, we are still living in an age of mobile phones, still some network and this thing. Now, a person who doesn't have access to education, doesn't have access to friends, doesn't have access to employment, how do you say that such people should survive? So their entire life existence has been denied. And that is where I really urge to us as architects that we have to be sensitive to humans. It's okay to learn artificial intelligence. It's okay to empower yourself with the best of technologies. Please go ahead and do it. But please make sure none of that would find any worth if you do not touch, connect a human life. And here I want the architects to take little inspiration from the doctors of the past, who in their OPDs would actually make a very healing process for the patient. There have been some amazing doctors in this country who've touched the patient's lives by their speech, by their content, and by their right advices. As a result, good health could prevail. So the aim of a doctor is not always surgery. Likewise, the aim of an architect is not always to build, but yes, sometimes the right advice to build, right advice not to build, how to build are equally important parts, which I would say is a domain called public advocacy. So I would insist to the youngsters today to get into public advocacy, look about the policies, turn around the world, think of startups, think of certain things, because it's a teamwork. Alone, none of us would be able to do it. But if you want to shape an environment which is more inclusive, more independent, you need more people to talk the same language. Otherwise, it'll be a big vain. So I'll not actually go too much into the definitions, which are all available, whether you read Oxford or Cambridge. But the point is to understand inclusion is a sense of a feeling, that you're included as part of a group. So whether you're excluded on the discrimination of caste, creed, gender, ability, etc., any form of discrimination is not only constitutionally bad, but I would say it is a big scar on us to be called humans. So even before we become architects, I would say if we consider ourselves to be human, we must do a double check in our designs that I hope my design is not excluding anyone. Now here is an example just to give you a clarity between what is the difference between inclusion and segregation and exclusion and integration. So you see these 4 images here. Let's start with the first one. Exclusion is very clear that when one group is isolated from the rest others for some reason, that reason could be a barrier. For example, having some steps could actually prevent anybody on a wheeling device to walk in. The change of color could avoid some people with low vision to feel discomforting in that environment. The absence of an accessible washroom could deny many children with disabilities to actually go to school. And likewise, not having facilities for women, enough women, especially during their family way in their organizations, would leave them to quit jobs. So they would be excluded by an invisible wall. That wall could be a policy, that wall could be the society and the stigma, that wall could be also a built form, that wall could also be a material, that wall could also be a technology, right? What happens when you start then putting them together in a segregated way? So an example of segregation is when you saw the Indian Railway coach, which says, okay, let's put one different coach and we'll say all people with X type of abilities will be put together. Would you like that kind of an approach? Of course, it's an interim solution, but that interim solution is going on for almost 70 years. The question is when everything else is trying to be talked about. And so the IT technology has been a great enabler. And I think I'm talking to Bangaloreans. So all the more reason that a lot of hopes have to come from there. So the way IT has brought in is, it has shifted both exclusion and segregation to the idea of, to some extent, integration and inclusion. I think IT has been a big enabler, but let me tell you now what happens when it means integration. Integration means that that same group is still identified by their whatever feature it is, but you say, okay, you're part of the same hall, but you all have to sit together, right? So for example, even in many institutions now, when students with disabilities come or something like that, you say, okay, put them in the same hostel on the same floor. So yes, they have access to education, they're going to be in the same classes, but they have been put together with a different identification mark. So it's an integration, but not a very seamless one. And the inclusion is when there is no question being asked to anyone. Who you are, what do you use, you can just walk in the way you like to be. And that is of course, I know it's very utopian to ask so, but that is a world, unless we benchmark ourselves with, we will never even strive for it, right? But design becomes very, very crucial. And please understand, design is no longer just the physical manifestation of it. There are technologies that we as architects have to know about, even if we are not developing them, that can help us solve the purpose. Do you know what a person with deafness, the best technology to him or her is the idea of a SMS or a WhatsApp, because a phone call doesn't work for him, right? But now tell me, if a person with deafness falls in a toilet, right? How does he send a signal to someone out, because he or she is also sometimes speech impaired? He'll not be able to even shout. So what do you do in those public toilets? Provide an alarm bell. Now, even if you provide all that, what you also need is, and why I say public behavior and culture, because please understand, public behavior is a big sign of inclusion. Unless the people start accepting, so for example, if you maintain a toilet well, but if you don't leave it clean, who else will use it? So public behavior is a big signal towards accessibility, and I think India has a huge scope to work on it. Not that architects can do much to change it, or one should not even ask for a change, but the architects have to learn from the cultures that we have and find out solutions innovating, and that's where we'll have to move into a domain called tactical urbanism or tactical design, whereby experiments in physical space will look at social cultures. And I think such kind of experiments in design pedagogy should become a part of the norms of the future as we are moving forward. Right, so I think I'm left with like 3 minutes or so. I'll just quickly come to the concept here now about what we learned in the morning. So what does this term ability actually mean? So these three terms that you see on your screen, impairment, disability, and handicap, friends, they do not mean the same. And why it becomes important is, everything is formed by an impression of words. Even design is ultimately communicated in form of a narrative. But the point is, if we look at all these words together, the beginning slide that I showed you, entrance disabled, is a consequence of these anomalies with these terms. And here is something that I want to clarify to you. And it's not something that I have done. I would tell you that the WHO, which is these days in question during the COVID times, is the agency which had the authority to look at these things socially, culturally, as well as medically, into the understanding of what this means. So in 1980s, they had one theory, and in 2001, they themselves evolved this theory, which is called as the theory of the disablement process. So what it says is, many a times you'll find in the car parkings in Bangalore also, it's written handicap parking. Somewhere they'll write toilet disabled. Somewhere they'll write disabled parking. The question is, it's not a term that I and you should define. It's a term which is culturally acceptable. So the difference between all these three things is this. So impairments is nothing but a problem at a body function level. You and I can have an impairment and still not be disabled, right? For example, if you prick your finger, you will have a pain, or if you have a dental pain, there is an impairment in your tooth. But does because of that you're called disabled? No, you're not called disabled, because it's an impairment. So it's okay. So for example, if you're using spectacles, it's an impairment in the eye, but you're able to correct that impairment by an assistive system, so your impairment does not lead to a significant loss. But disability is when, because of your individual conditions, be it health or personal factors, etc., including circumstances, please understand, it says it very, very clearly, it is circumstances also, that could lead you into a position that you're not able to perform the task. Right, so it's a characteristic which is an outcome of this. So for example, as I mentioned, on a French train station, I could not do a wayfinding. It was a circumstantial disability because of my impairment of not knowing French. Right, so suppose if I come to Chennai, and if I'm not able to get to the right bus, then what? Because I cannot read Tamil, right? So sometimes there can be external factors. Or I give you another situation. You are in the Bangalore street, and suppose you forget your wallet at home. Now you have a circumstance, you're economically having zero amount and yet you have to reach back home. So what do you do? So it's a situation that creates what is called as disability, right? So it's not only a person like that, but what happens is when that leads you to such a disadvantage, an extreme situation that you cannot fulfill the role of being in that society itself, I think that's when the handicap arises, right? To have a disability is absolutely okay, but to result it into a handicap can be prevented, and this is possible if you understand these two things. Number one, this is something that I've just created. Please understand, a disabled person doesn't mean the same as a person with disability. So the first change that I accept is from us, that the way we refer to us. So for example, you can put name. Suppose I was a person who could not see and was still lecturing to you. What would you tell your friends? You'll say, oh, that, blind professor, isn't it? So what would happen is my disability becomes the prefix, but this is not true. I would still be Gaurav, but my eyes are blind. So then what does that mean is Gaurav with blindness, or the professor with blindness would be the right term. But what happens is the moment a little disability happens in a human body or something, we all start looking at the disability first and the human later. Now this slide is the most simplest slide of my all slides, but this is the most complex where the entire society is stuck, which is why the entrance is disabled. You'll see the lift disabled, you'll see the parking handicapped, and many other things, because this is the human notional understanding. And how do you work on this notional understanding? I would say we need to do a lot of work, both by design, practice, advocacy, and information systems, such that these social barriers could perhaps be pitched upon, and they could be removed to some extent. And only if you open those doors, the rest of the society would feel inclusive. For example, till 20 years back, women were never seen to be financially independent. Today, women are not only independent, they have done exceedingly well, and I'm so proud of this fact to say that. Right? Now, women have run homes, they have done everything that so they've actually moved beyond the stereotyped role. So that's not, and which is why I think this whole issue of gender came into picture. But the point was, it should not have been if the society was good in its understanding, right? But the point is, as an architect, you have to deal with this same society. The question is, how do you converge upon it? So it will happen, suppose tomorrow you do a housing project with a real estate developer, you must sit into it and understand and tell and make a profit case for the real estate guy. That see, if in this housing people who stay get a good quality of life, they might be able to pay as well sometimes. But even if they are not, let us find so that's the challenge that we have to innovate upon. If you're designing a school as an institution, don't look and create a problem for them that you will not even create a ramp in the building or a step-free entrance. It all is possible at the design stage, right? But you have to first convince and get on to the design brief. So when you write the design brief, write the requirements. If you state in those requirements these two words, that I'll achieve inclusivity as well as independence for people who will perform in it, even in their extreme conditions, only then my design is going to be successful. You must mark it as part of your design practices in case you open one, that we are the people who deliver amazing quality of life, amazing degree of independence, and we restore human dignity and social participation so that we all live together as an amazing society. Please understand, architecture is not more important than life. Architecture has an importance if it can support life, right? So if we provide the right kind of support, we are very much going to be in. But we have to think the society is evolving, the needs are changing, and the phenomena of the world are also changing. So people's perceptions, social cultures, etc. are changing, and people are informed as well today. So we have to really look at a new way of doing business, a new way of touching people's lives, and taking an extremely high important leadership role. If we really want to master this, then we have to dirty our hands as well. So we have to sit with the craftsmen, we have to sit with the masons, we have to sit with the contractors, we have to sit with the business guys. but at the same time, we also have to sit with the people who are in pain and feel that pain. It's okay to cry for a few days so that you can wipe a few tears in times to come. And I think with all these words today, though there is much more to go forward, I think I won't take more time. It's already exceeded, I think, 5 minutes beyond 3:30. So I think I would like to pause it here with this moment that architecture is a worshipable discipline, but to let it have that worship quality, we have to do something that it becomes worship.